5,000 kilometers across Canada, all the way to the Parliament buildings on our tandem bike. And what I realized is you actually can create Ignite moments. So many of us talk about our Ignite moments from the past and what we learned from them. But as we evolve, we have the ability to bend reality in such a way that we can manifest Ignite moments. And so I wanted to actually get and dip my foot in the harbor at Halifax and in the Atlantic. And well, of course, when we got there, because of COVID, they wouldn't let us into the Atlantic bubble. So we had to loop around and make our way back to the Parliament Hill, which was so fascinating because never before was there an open forum with an open mic on Parliament Hill. And so when I cycled up, there were thousands of people in the square, and they're like, does anyone want to say anything? And I jumped off my bike with my little cycling gear and I ran up to the stage. I grabbed the microphone and I said to everybody, I just want you to know that anything is possible. I just cycled across Canada, and the whole crowd erupted and started cheering. And of course, I got to talk about igniting possibilities. But what was so cool was when I was in 8th grade, I told my social studies teacher that one day I'm going to speak on Parliament Hill. And she told me, I don't think so, not with those grades. And fast forward, so many years later, we weren't supposed to go there, and the universe just made it all happen. And there I was talking on Parliament Hill about what's possible.
I think that was an Ignite moment with the teacher.
Yes.
Do people often point to childhood experiences as their Ignite moment that changed what they thought?
Many times, yes. It's very common that people will share an Ignite moment that was the precipice in childhood. They had a belief system that was sparked in childhood. I have an author who they escaped Romania. And when she was 14, she was left alone. Her parents left her there with her 17-year-old brother and her 12-year-old brother. And it took them 2 years as children to escape Romania. They did so in the bottom of a car. Now she's in her 50s, and she told the story for the very first time.
Wow.
And was so freed by telling this story. And so those kinds of things happen often. She lived her life for so long, so many years, under this secret. And so available to tell the story and then have so many people respond to her and support her and be freed of that burden was incredible. And we've had that over and over again. We've had authors who have shared for the first time, being sexually abused, or that they had, thoughts of suicide, even spousal abuse. And then they come around to realize the learning from it, and it frees them to actually go on. We have a real estate agent who's been super successful and admitted in his Ignite moment that he was in jail, and it has freed him to be now authentically who he is and not afraid that someone's going to find out his secret.
I think underneath it all, we all seek to be heard, seen, valued, and loved.
I think so too. So why, at what point in this life that you've had in your story did you say it's going to be publishing?
I was at an event where people were speaking on stage, and a man was telling his very vulnerable story, and he started crying on stage, and it was very uncomfortable for a lot of people. But what was so great is when he got off the stage, everyone hugged him. Oh. And what I realized was everyone felt closer to him. Everyone felt more connected to him. He was more authentic. And that made me realize, we all have those moments where we want to be seen and we want to be vulnerable and we want to be heard, and it makes us feel closer together. And what I realized, loving writing and always being a writer ever since I was a little kid, I was like, if we could all tell our stories and publish them and read them, because my very first book in 2003 I wrote was about writing letters to my mother. I had a difficult relationship with my mother. I ended up going to the Dominican Republic to get away from her and living the island life. But I wrote her letters, and this is back in the days when we didn't have cell phones and we didn't have email. So I literally wrote her handwritten letters. I wrote her over 2,000 letters. She never wrote me back, but I will tell you this, when I came home, I felt so much more connected to her and she to me, and she kept all my letters. I published a book about it because what I realized is that letter writing, the art of letter writing, is so powerful when you connect with somebody on a very different level. Now we all do email, but writing speaks to the heart. It speaks to the soul. It connects on a deeper level. And so I've always sort of been really passionate about writing.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because writing also activates areas in our brain that otherwise wouldn't be activated just from thinking it. Or so using those tools, it's a tools for your own personal transformation that writing will help you. And we have many that write in a journal. every day as well.
That's right. Some write letters to themselves or to the deceased ones in order to, to get through it. So you're right.
Right. And I am an advocate of my authors writing their stories. I don't advocate ghostwriting because I want people to do the work. I want them to go through the process. And when they do their own story, they find all kinds of new wisdom from it.
That's great.
We get to this place now in our program when we have a few minutes left, just maybe 2, and we say, it's tough to synopsis, but what would you say to our listeners right now that from you to them?
Thank you for that. Well, I would share with them, you have a story and your story is important. The journey that you've taken in your story is actually going to help someone else in their journey. So be brave and courageous and realize that we all want to see you. We all want to hear you. We want to be a part of what you're doing. So take the time to tell your transformational story, create ignite moments in your life, and you can heal somebody else's. And that will allow us to all ignite humanity.
I love your mission, ignite humanity. We're all on board. I can say that absolutely. If you're tuning in watching this, you're already on board as part of the Ignite Humanity mission. And
the categories that you put together, what a brilliant idea this is.
Yeah.
And of course, it's going to spill right over to the ones you're talking about, health and faith and all of that. And you're going to get a lot of that, I think, from our listeners too. They've got some stories. Boy, do they have some stories.
Yeah. So
we've got some of them
exactly.
that they've told us, and we're going, oh.
So I want to just again say that website, igniteyou.life. That's where you're going to be able to find everything on there. JB, it has been an absolute delight and pleasure hearing about your story and your knighthood and everything else. We wish you so much success, which we know is coming. And I think we're just about out of time now, Lee.
We are indeed.
Yeah.
So thank you, JB.
Thank you so much. Blessings to you both and all of your listeners. Right. May you be filled with Ignite moments. Take care.
All right.
I love that. Let's be filled with more Ignite moments. So we are actually going to take a 10-minute break. Perhaps you can go out there and find an Ignite moment. Actually, I have a challenge for you. Write down one Ignite moment in this next 10 minutes.
Yes.
Don't think, just write.
Don't think.
What's an Ignite moment that you've experienced
something
in the next
changed
10
the way you think, or something that has been transformational.
And if you're on the chat with us, put it in the chat.
Yeah.
So one Ignite moment. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and we'll see you back here for the Circle of 12.